What's going on, y'all? Welcome to my channel, The Book of Chris. Today we're going to discuss one of the primary reasons why men are unfaithful. So yeah, let's talk about it. So listen, I'm sure you've seen the title of the video already. The reason we're going to discuss today is men being subconsciously taught quantity over quality. And a lot of that has to do with two things. That's expectation and influence. I can't tell you how many times I had a girlfriend just for someone older to tell me, oh, that's puppy love. Like, I know that sounds small, but that feeling pretty much gets diluted all because someone decided to project their experiences onto you. So let's first talk about expectations, right? A lot of times that pretty much starts out pretty innocent. An example would be you see a little kid and what do you hear grown-ups say to him? Oh, like, he gonna be a little heartbreaker. And even on the middle school, when you get around your aunts and uncles you haven't seen in a while, and what do they ask? How many girlfriends you got? And then on the high school, that conversation turns from being innocent and mild to a family member saying, boy, I used to knock them down when I was your age. Make sure you stay strapped, you know? Like, and even college is even worse. Because then you get to the point to where a family member be like, hey, don't stay tied down to one chick. You in college, enjoy it. You got plenty of time down the line to where you can settle down. So all these little comments end up setting the expectation and outlook you end up having on relationships, which is short-term and variety. Now, let's be honest. Most of the time what they're saying is true. We know that now, obviously, because we're adults. Like, the likelihood of you marrying your high school sweetheart is pretty much slim to none. But I truly believe there's a better way of explaining the dynamics of a relationship instead of instilling doubt. Like, how do you raise men to seek value instead of temporary pleasures when going after someone that they're interested in? Let's be honest and talk about the conversations that you have around your boys. Let's also be honest about our behavior when girls come around. It's not uncommon for a man to receive praise for the amount of girls he's pulling. I specifically remember days me and my friends would challenge each other. And it was like winning a trophy. As you become more secure with yourself and more aware of the way of how you should treat people, you start to realize, man, I was really playing with people's lives. Like, all because of some false expectation driven by ignorance and ego. I can tell you that the further you get in life, the harder it is to unlearn the things that were embedded in your thought process. And I'm really talking from experience. So we touched on expectation regarding quantity over quality. Now let's talk about influence, because at this stage of society, there are countless examples. So according to the U.S. Census from 1970 to 1988, single parent households with kids from 18 and under went from 12% to 27%. Needless to say, I was a part of that statistic. My mom and dad divorced when I believe I was around 4, and I really saw my dad until he got remarried. And even then, we didn't really have much of a relationship because just of the childhood trauma that I had experienced. Now, I'm saying this because at one point during this time, both my mom and my dad were single. When we think about our parents, we really don't see them being anything else other than loving, caring, hardworking, a nurturer, a provider, and so on. You know, like, that's my mom and my dad, right? My mind never grasped the fact that my mom was actually someone's girlfriend or a date, or like, she really was out here probably having situationships. It wasn't until I got older and started evaluating my life until I began to start noticing where the source of my behavior and decisions came from. From the time my parents were divorced to the time they got remarried again, they were really rolling stones. My mom was a little bit more discreet, but things I didn't understand as a kid, I now understand as an adult. Like the time she left me at home and she had to go down the street to visit her friend at 9 o'clock at night. Like, come on, mama. And my dad would date girls that had children. And they would take me like out to restaurants with them. They'll take me to theme parks, to the circus, to carnivals. I can't tell you how many times I had potential stepbrothers and sisters. It was crazy. Now, what does all this mean? It means that this was the norm for me. I watched my parents go from relationship to relationship. The friends I grew up with were a product of the same environment, and I watched them follow the same footsteps of their parents and their older siblings. Heck, I even had 9 older male cousins. I would stick by their hip, listening to everything they said, watching everything they did, going everywhere they went. That type of exposure made Instagram look like the Disney Channel. And no fault to them, because this was their norm as well. Like, they were teenagers themselves dealing with things in their own home. A lot of men are subject to the same type of influences. Some more extreme, some less. But if this is what you're seeing day in and day out, what's the probability of you not just escaping the cycle, but dodging it also? Avoiding the cycle is one thing, but trying to get out of the cycle is like a whole different beast. There's a reason why people that struggle with food fail to meet their New Year's resolutions year after year. There's a reason that alcoholics and drug addicts relapse, and they're consistently having to work the steps in their recovery program. There's a reason why people live check to check, because they have a hard time living within their means. They can plan a vacation, but they can't make a plan to get themselves out of debt or repair their credit. And let's not turn this into an excuse for men to be unfaithful, because once you are aware of the right way to live, that's when that self-accountability activates. It doesn't mean that you won't fall short sometimes, but ultimately, the goal is to strive to be a better version of yourself. I wanted to talk about this because I feel there is a disconnect between men and women. Women, y'all need to know that when it comes to men that are caught up in quantity over quality, there are generally 2 types of men that you're probably going to end up dealing with. Both know better, but one is that guy that manipulates. They have no desire to change. They have zero discipline. They treat this as if it's a game, and they have no boundaries. He'll make you feel like you're crazy. He'll make you feel like you're the problem when it's really him, portraying himself to be something that he's not. Like, these are the type of dudes that got a whole bunch of kids and don't take care of none of them. Now, the second guy you might end up coming across is the one that's betraying his woman, but feels some form of conviction about it. He's dealing with insecurities and has always used lust as a coping mechanism. He knows he has an issue and wants to confront it without being exposed. He's afraid of what he might lose. He continues to fall into the trap of instant gratification, knowing that he's going to regret it immediately after. This person fails because his ability to remain trustworthy and faithful is based off of the love he has for his woman and other people. This doesn't work because anytime they make you mad or you fall out with the person that you love, which has become your why for being loyal, your integrity is at risk of being compromised. This is why self-love and self-worth is important. This is why spirituality is important, because of your fear for God. And your love for God will allow you to resist the lust of the flesh. And I won't go into detail, but the Bible specifically talks about how flesh wants was contrary to the spirit, and spirit wants was contrary to the flesh. And the Holy Spirit provides conviction so that we don't just go out and do anything and everything that we want to do. And that's a whole other conversation. So, maybe we can touch on that another day. But what I want to do is leave you with this final thought. I think that it's important for young men and young women to understand what it means to have self-control. When you share a moment of intimacy with someone, you're connecting with their mind, body, and soul, as well as their heart. Sex isn't something that's recreational. It's something that's intentional. Men and women have to be responsible. This means that only giving yourself to someone under a spiritual covenant. Like, this is what we should be instilling in our teenagers, in hopes that instead they choose quality over quantity. And that's all I have. So if you appreciate the content, please hit like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Also, leave a comment below because I would really love to hear what your thoughts are about this topic. So have a good one.